The results are in. Sarah Palin, who was once considered the future of the Republican Party, has lost a special election to represent the state of Alaska in Congress. And she lost to a Democrat named Mary Peltola. It is a huge upset for the former half-term Republican governor of the state, who was handpicked by Republican presidential candidate John McCain to be his running mate. Democrat Mary Peltola will be the first Alaska native in Congress and the first woman to represent Alaska in the House of Representatives, taking the at-large seat that was once occupied by the late Republican Congressman Don Young, who held it for 50 years. Peltola will be the first Democrat to join Alaska's congressional delegation since 2014, when Democratic Senator Mark Begich lost his seat to Republican Dan Sullivan. So how did this happen? How did a Democrat win in deep red Alaska? The special election to fill Don Young's seat was actually held 2 weeks ago on August 16th, also the first night of this program. It was the first time Alaska used a ranked choice voting system in which voters rank their candidates in order of preference. And when candidates are eliminated, the votes that would have gone to them are instead redistributed to the next ranked candidate that the voters preferred. Going into today, Democrat Mary Peltola was leading with about 40% of the vote, Sarah Palin at 31%, and Begich at 28%. Not a single candidate had won a majority of the vote. So the race went into an instant runoff election in which the last place candidate, Nick Begich, was nixed, and his voters were redistributed to Peltola or Palin. In case you were wondering, yes, Alaska will still use the ranked choice voting process in November's midterm elections. Joining me now is Mark Leibovich, staff writer for The Atlantic and author of Thank You for Your Servitude, Donald Trump's Washington and the Price of Submission. Well, this seems sort of like maybe the price of submission has been called for in this race. Mark, I mean, what Sarah Palin, I must read her statement after her loss this evening. Ranked choice voting was sold as the way to make elections better, reflect the will of the people. As Alaska and America now sees, the exact opposite is true. Though we're disappointed in this outcome, Alaskans know I'm the last one who will ever retreat. Instead, I'm going to reload. Because what would a concession statement be without a gun metaphor? Mark, why do you think Sarah Palin lost tonight?
Well, I think she comes with a lot of baggage, obviously. I mean, I think there is a larger conversation about whether this speaks to a larger trend line. In the midterms, I mean, I think since the Dobbs decision, Democrats have overperformed in a number of races now. I mean, obviously, Sarah Palin is she's a we talked about this during the break, and I'm going to get it right. She's a sui generis character, right? She is not necessarily representative of your generic congressional candidate in another district somewhere in the country. But having said that, I mean, it's a really troubling trend line and result for Republicans in these last few weeks, partly because it's also another celebrity kind of quasi-freak show candidate that comes from the Trump tradition, the Trump mold, that voters seem to be showing time and time again they're pretty sick of. So that's got to be problematic also. But bottom line, I mean, this seat's been red since about like 1620 or whenever, and now it's flipping blue. So that's a bottom line good night for the Democrats. I
mean, Nick Begich, her opponent, is saying that she lost not because of ranked choice voting, but because her unfavorable rating is so high. It bears mentioning that on August 8th, the day the DOJ searched Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump was doing a tele-rally for none other than Sarah Palin. And one wonders whether it is responsible to extrapolate lessons about Donald Trump in all of this. I mean, it is worth noting that we have some reporting that Trump himself may be delaying the announcement of a 2024 presidential bid until after Labor Day. Initially, he had said he would do it around Labor Day, which is in 48 hours from now, depending on what time zone you live in. Do you think that it is wise? Do you think it is wise to try and find a lesson about Trump in all of this and in all of this swirl? I will say.
I think it speaks to a larger exhaustion with the swirl, right? I mean, I was talking to actually a Republican congressman today, and he was saying, do you believe we're still talking about this and this guy and like the various legal vicissitudes and, whether, Sarah Palin's going to concede and is she going to back off and is she going to do a Trump style of contesting the election? I mean, it's one thing after another. And you do sense a certain weariness with not only this story, but just sort of the ongoing distraction that this is sort of done to the Republican Party, and sort of it's blocking out everything else. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a trend line that's worth worrying about if you're a Republican.
To support my work, please click the subscribe, the like button, and the notification bell so you wouldn't miss any of my new videos.